Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Dark Souls beginner walkthrough video. So this time we are going to be heading through Duke's Archives, which is kind of tricky because you get turned around a lot, but it's really not too difficult. You just gotta be aware of enemies and how much damage they do, and like, don't get lost because it turns you around a lot. And so, before this video, we went to Anor Londo. We got this Bequeathed Lord Soul Shard, which is from the Four Kings. It tells you that Lord Gwyn gave a piece of his awesome soul to these four kings of Anor Londo. And it says, while it's not its own soul and very powerful like Gwyn's, it's still powerful enough to satiate the Lord Vessel. Then we also picked up the very large ember, and that'll allow us to take our plus 10 weapons up to plus 15, which is max. So the first thing I'm going to do is head over there and upgrade my bow from plus 5 to plus 15, because I haven't done that in a while, and it needs an upgrade. When I was playing last time and I was shooting arrows, I think it was last time or the time before, I realized that it really wasn't doing that much for damage. So I'm gonna go ahead and just give him this ember.
Ember you've got there, for all my years in the trade, that might be the finest. How's about you leave that ember with me? I'm just an old smith. I'd give my left arm for a gem like that. Well, thank you mightily for that. Now, just leave the rest to me. Andre Ymastora gets the job done, you shall see.
So if you've noticed that my character's a little different, I got more humanity and more souls, it's because I did some humanity farming earlier, which you can do in the depths. We can also do it in the Duke's Archives, and I believe in the Depths video I talked about how you can farm the rats for humanity. And they don't drop it very often, I guess more often than other enemies, because most enemies don't drop it at all, but they themselves don't drop it super often, even with max item discovery. There are other locations in the base game that you can also farm humanity at, and the Duke's Archives is one of them. In the DLC, there's actually a place where there's humanity phantoms that are just roaming around, and they have a much higher chance of dropping humanity, both the single humanity and the twin humanity. So humanity really doesn't become an issue in the DLC. Which, speaking of DLC, you pick up the item that allows you to access the DLC in this video too. It's called the Broken Pendant. We'll get there, I'll talk about it when I get there a little bit. It's obscure. You have to kill an enemy who's kind of standing in a corner, and you wouldn't really bother with him because he doesn't normally attack you. But you kill him, and then you get this pendant, and that'll take us to the DLC. I won't go into the DLC in this video, but we'll have the item. And if you wanted to go into it, you could go back to where we found Dusk and her golden golem, and then you'll see like a portal thing, and you go up to it, and you can access the DLC by going there. And so now my bow, now that it's been upgraded, does a lot more damage. It does like 85 or something, plus 224, which means that it does over 300 damage. Now, enemies are resistant to arrows, typically, but it's still a very good bow to have. And now, with 22,000 souls, I popped some souls and stuff to get that much. I can upgrade my Pyromancy Flame from 13 to 14. It was at 11, I think, before I did my farming and stuff, and then I got souls and whatever, and upgraded it a couple times. Didn't really miss anything. I just went ahead and got a few things. I'm gonna try to keep the 10 humanity on me, because that means that I'll get more item drops, and I already have the 10 humanity, and I don't really have anywhere to put it. I could roam around and throw it into various bonfires or whatever, but I think I'll just keep it for now anyway. And so to get to Duke's Archives, we go back to that orange door that I pointed out in the Anor Londo video. And the orange door thing is not going to be there. So we just gotta run over there, which Anor Londo is huge, so this is a bit of a run. So, in case you've forgotten why we're even going up here, we're going to the Duke's Archives, which I've talked about a little bit, and that is where Seath the Scaleless resides. And he's one of the 4 lords, or 4 bosses, that we have to go kill and get their soul to throw into the Lord Vessel so that we can get to Gwyn. Gwyn was powerful enough to seal himself away, and apparently the other 4 lords have to have their souls combined in order to break his seal. So, the Duke's Archives is a little segment off of Anor Londo. Or at least that's what they want you to have it kind of feel like. It's really so far away from Anor Londo that you feel like you're in a different area. Because you go up so high that you're on top of a mountain. So yeah, it's still kind of Anor Londo, but not really. Now, with this boar, you can see I'm struggling a lot more. They don't have a weak spot to backstab. There's this one, and then there's another one. Only the one that was in Undeadburg in the beginning of this series had the weak spot. There's another one after this one, and he also doesn't have a weak spot like this one. So your best bet to killing them is going to be elements. Magic, lightning, or fire. Those will be the best things to damage these. I think these guys are particularly weak to lightning. So buffing your weapon in gold pine resin or something will definitely help out a lot. And later, I'll show you where I farm for gold pine resin, just kind of as a side area, because I'm going to go back to the forest to join the Covenant, the Forest Hunter Covenant, and I'm going to grab a soul that I missed, because I was being invaded so much I didn't really have time to go grab it. So, I was going to do it before Sif, but now I'm going to do it in this video since I'm going back for gold pine resin, and it's near there. It's nothing big, it's a soul. Every soul kind of counts in this game, though, because near the end of this video, you'll see me pop pretty much every soul that I have, and that'll buy some really expensive pyromancy. And speaking of elements and buying spells and stuff, we will also meet Big Hat Logan again, and he'll be in the archives, and he'll sell sorcery, and sorcery is the most expensive magic type in this game. Logan charges outrageous prices for spells, like 50,000 for Crystal Soul Spear, which is one of the best projectile sorceries, especially with super high intelligence and the right staff and everything like that, but it's like 50,000 souls. So if you are a magic user, your best bet is to find somewhere to farm. Earlier, I was farming the New Londo area for the Dark Wraiths because I was trying to get Titanite chunks and trying to get some souls along with that, possibly a Titanite slab, because you can get those chunks, and then if you have Frampt, he'll break those down into, I think, 4 large Titanite shards, and then you can break each large Titanite shard, I think, into 4, maybe it's 2 normal Titanite shards. Which means that getting chunks basically means you get large and small. So I went down there and farmed, that way I could upgrade the bow that I did at the beginning of this. So anyway, we are officially in Duke's Archives. That's the first bonfire. It's not warpable. So if you warp away from it and you go back to Firelink for something, you're not going to be able to warp back to that spot. You're going to have to run up the hill and down the hallways, except the boars should be gone and you shouldn't have to deal with them anymore. So you won't really have to worry about getting up here too much. Now in this area, you're going to meet a whole bunch of boring Crystal Hollow guys. They're really nothing special, except they do way too much damage for what they are. And it makes sense because we used the Crystal Halberd in another video, and that was doing so much damage. It was better than the weapon I had upgraded and everything, just by default. So, crystal weapons can be really powerful. These are Crystal Hollows, which means that everything they do should have more damage. So it makes sense. But then, on top of that, there's channelers in here, which you can see one trying to shoot sorcery at me. And we haven't seen a channeler since Undead Parish right before the Gargoyles. That whole boss fight. So, the channelers are back. They're in here, and they still do the buff for making all other enemy units do more damage and attack faster, or at least attack more aggressively. And so it can get really annoying with crystal enemies that already do more damage than they should. They seem to have super high defense, and then on top of that they attack more aggressively and do more damage. You can get overwhelmed really quick. And so that crystal golem right there in the corner was the one that you have to kill to get the broken pendant. So at this point you can go back to where we killed the Hydra, back to where Dusk was, and you can see that portal thing I was talking about, and you'll be able to go through it. But you have to do what I did in the last video and get that broken pendant. Because if you don't kill the Hydra, the golden golem doesn't show up. If you don't kill the golden golem and free Dusk, then you don't unlock her, and she has to be unlocked to get into the DLC. And then after that, this crystal golem up here will drop the broken pendant when killed, only after she's freed, though, from the gold one. So it's a little finicky, and it's kind of a mess. But if you do what I did in the order I did it, you should be fine. If the broken pendant doesn't drop and you are certain that you did everything in the correct way, then just go back and check. Make sure that there's no golden golem. Make sure you can see Dusk. Make sure that you've actually killed the Hydra and all of that. And if everything else fails, check Firelink Shrine. Behind Framped, there's a chest that's normally open next to a statue. And that will have that item if something went wrong. Because the game puts kind of a fail-safe chest for any key item in the game that doesn't spawn correctly or whatever. Maybe there's just an error. It puts those items in that chest so that you can go and get them later. And since this is a key item required to get into the DLC, if for whatever reason you didn't get it, you should check there. I've never had that happen before. I've never had to open that chest. But that is what I've been told that does. And I'm pretty sure the wiki tells that too. So you can always check that too. So anyway, we've got our channeler casting spells still. And in fact, I believe I die really shortly. Because the channeler does an attack I'm totally not ready for. And he like double hits me right there with the spearhead twist with his trident. And that kills me because he's buffed himself to do more damage, and this is a harder area and all of that. It also hits you 3 times, so I died. So let me cut it back to that spot. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say, hey, this area is kind of deceiving, where you really don't think Crystal Hollows and Channelers would be a problem until you are faced in a situation where you've got Archer Crystal Hollows hitting you for more damage than you think they should do. You've got Channelers hitting you with spells, buffing every dude, including themselves, around the area, and then on top of all of that, you've got to deal with these normal guys who do jump attacks and do a ton of damage anyway. So just be careful, because it happened to me in this video. And on top of that, if you somehow happen to piss off this mimic here, you've got a channeler somehow still going, he can buff the mimic, and the mimic by itself does pretty good damage, so a buffed mimic will pretty much wreck you if it hits you. So like a mistime roll like I just did there could possibly kill you, because I think their buff like doubles enemy damage. So that would do like 6 bars of health, which is a lot more than a lot of characters have sometimes when they're in this area. That mimic drops a crystal knight shield, which really isn't anything too special. It's a crystal imbued shield. And so all that means is that it's got maybe slightly better defenses, or maybe greatly better defenses. I don't actually really know, because I don't imbue my stuff with crystal very often, but it'll have better defenses or better stability or something like that, at the cost of durability being almost nothing. And another thing, before we head up that lift, make sure you check every corner of these long elevated areas, these balconies, because over here, here's another chest, and I almost went up the lift without getting it, and that's Twinkling Titanite. That's something you don't really want to forget. You might have noticed that there's a chest on the bookcase closest to me, down, even though I'm looking up. That is a chest we can get later, but the fall to get to it, if you miss the bookcase, you'll pretty much fall to your death. So it's not really something that I advise getting, because it's not even that great. But if you're trying to collect all unique stuff, because there is an achievement to collect unique items, it's one of the items that you need to get anyway. So that'll be up to you later when I get there. So when you go up that lift, watch out for this guy. This guy can parry you. He can riposte you and everything. And he's also crystal, which means he does pretty good damage too. He's got a crystal greatsword. So basically, the Dom Hall guy that we talked to in the depths, see, there's a parry and riposte, did way more damage, and I was not expecting that to happen. Basically, if you talk to the Dom Hall guy in the depths, he's moved up to Firelink Shrine now. I will show him later too. He actually moves up there after you kill the Gaping Dragon. But anyway, if you talked to him in the depths, he had some crystal weapons and crystal shields and stuff up there that you could buy from him. So that character pretty much bought like the weapons and shields, and then there's an armor set that we'll find later in this area. So you can roleplay as that guy if you really want to. Also be mindful that there's a crystal lizard, and you're probably not going to want to come up here too much later, because it's kind of a pain to get here. Now, before you do this boss fight, it's very important that you put on a rare ring of sacrifice, just in case. You can use a normal one, but try not to get cursed. And you need to die. So at this point, you have to die. If you haven't died yet this entire game and you're feeling awesome, sorry. Because there's no way to beat Seath the Scaleless right now. He's got a trick where if you damage him at all, he will heal himself. So the best thing to do is just take off all your armor and let his stuff do damage to you. And you must die. You can't even try to do like a mega hit and kill him. He will revive and everything. There's no way to kill him without cheating, I don't think. And so when you die, if you got cursed or otherwise, that rare ring of sacrifice will break, which is fine. That's exactly what it needs to do. And then we're back in a completely different area. This is like a jail cell area, a prison where Seath keeps his experiments and other prisoners and stuff to do experiments on. So we are now set into this area, and you cannot warp from this bonfire. You can't really leave except manually running out of here. So be prepared, kindle a bonfire, level up, spend your souls, whatever you want to do, because it can be kind of a pain. It's not really hard to leave this area, but the next bonfire is kind of far away. And for whatever reason, people like to invade in the Duke's archives. I don't know if they can invade in here, in this prison area, but in the area where we're going to get the next bonfire that is warpable, they really like to invade there. In fact, in this video, I have an invader show up. So, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, that's why people do that. So, you're going to want to make sure you pretty much got all your flasks and you're ready to go. So, now, how do we get out of here? Well, this snake guy here, you can hit and kill, and he'll drop the key. And back here, we've got some crystal hollows. They don't really do anything. I'll kill them, because there is a door back here that we will be able to go through once we have the key. I kill them for whatever reason now, and then I guess thinking that I would go through this door, and then I never do until later when we have to come back here. So this is kind of a pointless adventure over here, killing these hollows. But I guess they drop souls, so if you need souls, you can kill them and take care of that. There's a door there. Remember that door. We'll come back to it later. So now we got to kill this snake guy. And he should die in 1 or 2 hits. And he should drop the key. Archive tower cell key. And now we can open up our prison. This key does not open this door over here. So we've got to go out the door that he was guarding. And you're going to see a little cutscene. And so those weird things are actually the things you get to farm for humanity if you're trying to do that. So I have my 10 humanity. I could put on a gold serpent ring and try farming these guys. These snake guys will try to run up ahead here and climb this ladder, because they're going to try and guard the exit out of here, which is up this ladder. So try to get some damage in on them. Try to kill them maybe before that one gets away from me, but that's fine. We've got one of them. It just means we won't have to deal with him later. So these things are called Picasa. It's a really weird enemy. You're not going to see them anywhere else either. And they drop humanity, just like rats do, except they seem to drop it more frequently. And you can always farm them. You can rest at the bonfire in here and then go ahead and farm them. And with my 10 humanity already there, I just got another humanity. So, without really trying. I mean, I have the 10 soft humanity already there, but I don't have, like, the gold serpent ring. Where with rats, sometimes you can make a run to kill rats and not get any humanity from them. So these have a higher drop rate, but you've got to come to this weird area that you can't warp out of, and it's kind of a pain to leave. So that's kind of the catch. So while rats might be easier to access, they don't drop it very much, but here you might get more. You just can't leave very easy. And then there's an area later in the Tomb of the Giants, which we'll do probably in a couple videos from now. And there's an area in there with baby skeletons that you can kill repeatedly because they constantly spawn and they drop humanity. That's also kind of in a weird spot, but nothing too bad. And if you're really annoyed by this sound that's playing right now, that's lured all these things out here, they they're only wandering around this first time. Once we shut this off, that noise will go away, and these guys won't be wandering around. They'll be clustered in this big room. So we're going to take care of that noise. And you could activate it again later and make these guys run around later. But, we're not going to do that in this video. We're just going to go ahead and focus on killing them and turning that thing off because it's kind of annoying. These two in the corner that didn't move at all, they drop some miracles, which you can only use if you're in the covenant with Guinevere back in Anor Londo. So if you join her covenant, you can use those, and those are special healing miracles that they're really powerful, and they're designed to heal others and greatly heal yourself and stuff. So it's for more of a supportive role. And yeah, I talked over what Big Hat Logan said. Really, he didn't say anything interesting. He just said, "Oh, I'm here in the archives. Can you free me again? And I'm so close to all this knowledge, but I can't access it because I'm a prisoner." Really nothing super interesting. So up there, you're going to get ambushed by snake men. There's actually a lightning one up above, kind of back behind where these guys were. So rather than going up there and trying to fight 3 guys at once, we're going to try and lure at least these 2 down into a much bigger area where we can effectively fight. And yes, you can parry and riposte these guys and backstab them too. So that's pretty much the main strategy for them, is just get them away, see if you can do some sort of critical damage, because by themselves they seem to have decent like armor. Their scales or whatever are protecting them enough so that normal attacks, it's going to take quite a few to kill them. It's not like 2 hits. So this Cobra guy, we'll kill him next. And back here, we open this chest. And this is the Archive Tower Giant Door Key. And this is the exit key. We needed this key to even leave this area. That's why we didn't go up the ladder. We had to come down here and get that. Now we're going to shut this off. And it's finally quiet again. So now we can leave. And there's another key, and there are more items to come get. We have to come back here anyway because we can't free Logan at this time. We don't have the right key, and the key is not in this area. It's near the warpable bonfire that we're going to go get next, which means that we're going to have to backtrack into this area. However, the benefit of all that, there's your extra key if you're interested in searching here. The benefit of backtracking back here, as long as we don't rest, we can grab all the items and then homeward bone back out. Which means that we won't have to run back out to the bonfire. We'll just have to run here. Doesn't really matter. Running towards here or running away from here is pretty much the same thing. So if you rest at the bonfire again, you're going to have to deal with the snake men, like this guy who's climbing up and down and doing whatever he's doing, and the other guy that I killed. But the Picasa should stay away. They shouldn't come up here, and the other snake men should stay where they are. So if you need flasks, you can rest there. And then you can go ahead and climb this ladder. And so, Seath the Scaleless, what is his story? Well, his story is he betrayed his own dragon kind because he was not necessarily made fun of, but he was different from the rest of them, and he didn't have immortality. And his other brothers, his other dragon brothers, I guess, didn't accept him for being scaleless. He was weird. And so he betrays his own kind because Gwyn offers him, says, hey, look, you attack your dragon brethren. I will give you access to all this knowledge. You'll get your own area to do your knowledge in. You basically have freedom, unlimited freedom to do whatever experiments you need to do, whatever knowledge you need to find, whatever you need to do, I'll give that to you. I'll make you a duke, and that basically gives you immunity from everything. So, Seath betrayed his dragon brethren and went ahead and he had this area. And so his experiments are what you're seeing here. The channelers, they're called the six-eyed channelers. They have magic and stuff. These crystal hollows are obviously normal hollows that he did some sort of magic on, and now they're crystallized. And there's other things, crystal golems, basically anything that's covered in crystals is Seath's doing. The Picasa down there were another experiment. Presumably Logan gets locked up to be another experiment. And Seath is pretty much insane at this point. His research has pretty much just made him completely mad, so he's doing all these really weird and wicked experiments. So I guess you could say that he is evil, which Frampt said the enemies, the lords that you're killing, have either fallen to wickedness or are no longer useful to Lord Gwyn. And so you can consider Seath however you want, but people would argue that experiments on other people is not really a very moral thing to do. It's not a good thing to do. So you could consider him wicked or insane to the point where he needs to be stopped if you wanted to. That's generally how most people see it. And really, this game is all up to interpretation, knowing the story and whatever. So you can read up on item descriptions all throughout about anything and make up your own logic and your own stories, but for the most part, people consider Seath to be insane. In fact, Big Hat Logan, when we free him, I believe says something like, you know, every pursuit of knowledge has a cost. So I guess in this case, Seath's cost was his own sanity. Which, in fact, if you follow Logan's storyline all the way through by defeating Seath and then buying all of Big Hat Logan's sorceries, little spoiler here is that he goes insane himself. And because he's got like all of Seath's magic knowledge, the same thing basically happens to him. So you could pretty much say from seeing as how he goes insane, seeing as how he acts and the type of magic he gets into, you can guess that Seath might have followed the same way. But the interesting thing about Seath's story, though, back to that, is that he's actually successful. In most cases, somebody goes on a search for something to be great and powerful and fails because they just can't make it, something's too dangerous, whatever the case is. With Seath, he actually gets what he's looking for. He's seeking immortality because in this game, according to the game's lore, what makes a dragon immortal is the scales on its body. And Seath not having his scales means that he is mortal and will die someday, which makes him different. So that's why he wanted this huge pursuit of knowledge, because he didn't want to die. He wanted to seek immortality some other way, and he ends up finding it. And so he actually fulfills his goal. It's just that he goes insane in the process. So again, make sure you check the edges of these balcony areas, because there are some spells and a couple different items. Over here, I believe, is Strong Magic Shield in this chest. Yup. So if you've been using Magic Shield, you'll like Strong Magic Shield. Strong Magic Shield in this game and in other games is just fantastic. With this game in particular, I really haven't used it more than a few times, but it's really great because you can apply it to any shield in your left hand, which means your catalyst must be in your right hand, which ultimately means you can't buff your weapon with a spell and buff your shield, so you have to choose one, unfortunately. But if you choose to use Strong Magic Shield, the stability is increased so much and the defenses are increased so much that any shield can block pretty much any attack with very minimal or no stamina loss or any piercing damage at all. So if a fire attack hits like the wooden shield that's got no fire defense, it wouldn't matter because Strong Magic Shield would negate all of that. The only downside to it is that it has a really short duration. According to the wiki, it's like 15 seconds. So it's really more meant of a sudden, like, you know something's gonna happen, you can cast it. And since you can only get one copy per game, you don't get very many castings of it. You can extend the duration of it, though, by wearing the Lingering Dragon Crest Ring. And I don't know how much you extend it, but if that's really interesting to you, say you can't equip a heavy shield, otherwise you can't roll because you're wearing super heavy armor or whatever, you could put that on your character and then apply it to the wimpiest shield, the lightest shield in the game, and make it basically the best shield in the game. Temporarily. So once you make it to this bonfire, and I know it's been a bit of a run, it's been kind of twisting staircases and dropping and falling and all this other stuff, but just once you get here, you should kindle this bonfire. It's pretty important that you go ahead and do that because you'll be able to warp to this one. This is the warpable bonfire. It's the only bonfire in this area that you can warp to. So it's pretty important to just go ahead and get this up. You're going to be returning here a lot. It's a nice checkpoint. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, people really like to invade in this area, like I was saying. So even though you've got this bonfire and you're like, great, I am in a pretty cool spot because we're not far from the boss fight and we're not far from the prison, we're not far from this new area that we're exploring, it's still, for whatever reason, a PvP hotspot. I guess because people know it's kind of a crappy run, so they hope to catch you off guard. But whatever. You're going to notice this a few times. I miss the Pyromancer dude. I don't know why.
Oh, well, I'll play as
And so now my flame is to
My
plus
Majesty still
15.
resides in the Great Swamp. Had a funny way of putting it. He said that pyromancy is the ultimate fantasy. We're born in the dark and warmed by fire, but this fire we cannot touch. Those whose fascination with fire persists learn to hold it in their own hand. He rather had a way with words, the old withering frog. In this land, pyromancers earn a certain respect. The Witch of Izalith, one of the legendary lords, is the godmother of pyromancy. So the day I became undead, I was ecstatic. I felt as if I'd been chosen to attune myself to the ancient arts. Of course, it wasn't all that romantic in the end. The pyromancer's flame is a part
So
of his own
he
body.
talks to you a little bit
Flame
about some new
develops
dialogue.
right along with his skill.
He's said this
I
one
gave you
before,
that
but I
flame.
play it out anyway.
I
So it's
gave
kind of
it all
interesting.
myself.
You learn more
Please
about
take it.
why he seeks pyromancy and why he's all dedicated to all that. And again, they talk about the Witch of Izalith and how she used pyromancy, and she's basically the founder of all pyromancers because she was into fire magic. Which is pretty interesting. In this game, there is pyromancy, which he says the Witch of Izalith created. And so all the pyromancers out there basically follow her. Which is interesting because in Lost Izalith, the place where the Witch of Izalith actually resides, there are some items you pick up that say that she didn't use pyromancy. She used fire magic, fire sorcery, which has long since been outdated and is just gone. Which is really interesting, actually, because that means that at some point you could cast fire with your staff, and I think that would have been really cool, but that developed into pyromancy anyway, so that's pretty cool. So over here is this Dom Hall guy that we've talked to in the depths. I want to point him out again, because we have defeated two bosses, the Iron Golem and the Dragon Slayer, Ornstein, or if you killed Smo in that fight last, his armor would show up here instead of Ornstein's. And you can buy his armor because this guy is the boss armor merchant. He says he collects oddities, and I guess he somehow got a hold of this armor, and now you can buy it from him. And it's actually not super expensive, which is pretty surprising because in other games, boss armor is really expensive. Especially in Dark Souls 2, you can buy a piece of armor for like 17,000 souls.
Well, that is a shame.
So you can go ahead and pop some souls or whatever you want to do. I'm checking some stats because I noticed that he has Ornstein's armor, which looked like it was better than my Silver Knight armor. Which, actually, I confirm that it is better than my Silver Knight armor. And so I buy everything from him for Ornstein's set anyway. I don't buy the Golem stuff. So this is me just kind of changing my character up a bit. I'm going to equip Ornstein's armor because it's better in everything. It weighs the same, so I'm going to put that on. Ornstein's gauntlets, little lighter. Provides slightly less lightning defense, but it's lighter. These weigh a little more, but they provide more defenses. And then the helmet, of course, would, you know, do something either way lighter or way more, and the stats would adjust accordingly. But overall, weighing a little lighter or weighing a little more is worth it for the stat adjustment. So I might lose like 2 points of lightning defense, but gain, you know, 8 in physical. So overall, his armor seems to be really good, and so I put it on. Now, I don't think boss armor in this game can be upgraded, but in Dark Souls 2, it can. So sometimes you find yourself buying certain armor sets, like boss armor, and then upgrading it. In this game, this armor is going to be this good, and there's nothing I can do to make it better, which means it's better than my Silver Knight armor. But I think if I went ahead and tried to upgrade it, which I think it takes Twinkling Titanite, it would ultimately be better than Ornstein's armor. So boss armor has a role. It's super strong by itself, but other sets completely upgraded might be better than that. But you're going to have to invest into it. And in this game, you can farm for souls forever. You can get hundreds of thousands of souls and you'll find yourself spending it really quick. So anyway, the sorcerer guy here tells you that Master Logan left for the archives, but he left his books here, so he can now teach you Logan sorcery, like Soul Spear and whatever. So if Logan denied you from talking to him because you didn't have the intelligence, which is 15 intelligence, I believe, to talk to him, then you could buy his sorceries from this guy. It is also important to note that if that's the way you're going and you're going to buy sorceries from him instead because of Logan not accepting you, not teaching you his stuff, it's important to note that Logan gets rid of that requirement after you save him in the Duke's Archives here. So when we save him, that is not really going to be an issue. It's still super expensive to buy all this stuff, and you still need super high intelligence to be able to use it. So, you know, you might not be able to use it, but it's not like you can't get it. And so you can see there, my bonfire went out, and I come back, and it instantly went dark again. I didn't even get a chance to rest or anything, and I checked that my homeward bone is dark, which means I can't do anything. So I'm going to quit again. That little glitch there was just me checking to see who was invading, because I have DSCM open as well. So there was no music playing or whatever, and I decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to just check and see somebody's invading. Plus, I also paused for a moment, took like a very small break, and that allows whoever was deciding to invade people over here, maybe they don't get the chance to invade anymore, maybe they invade somebody else, whatever it is, I'm not being invaded at the moment. Eventually, there becomes a case where I get invaded even though I didn't know I was, because I didn't notice any signs, no mysterious fog walls, no homeward bones going dark, I just kind of got invaded. So I'll have to deal with that at some point. But for now, I'm going to go back to this staircase. And I'm going to rotate it. That guy can fall to his death. That's fine. And that chest down there, I'm going to get it. Now, if you don't make this fall, you must land on this bookcase. And if you don't make the fall, then you die. There's really nothing you can do. You might be able to wear some fall protection, well, you can't wear it in this game. In other games, there are fall protection rings. In this game, there's only the spell fall control. So you might be able to put that on and survive. I don't know, that's a pretty long drop. But I managed to land it. I wasn't confident, so I put on the Ring of Sacrifice. But you need this item to get a unique item achievement. I think it's called Knight's Honor or whatever. I've already got all the achievements for this game because I sat down and did it one day. But that is one of the items you need. So if you're going hunting for an item, you're going to have to get that, which is unfortunate because basically if you fall, you die. So you either do suicide runs where you don't care about souls and humanity. I did. So that's why I wore my ring. But you either do that or you just kind of deal with it. But in that chest you get Avalon, which tells you it's a repeating crossbow that shoots 3 bolts, which basically means that it's more of a rapid fire thing. It's supposed to give you a slight advantage over somebody who's expecting a crossbow to only fire 1 bolt. But Avalon, it also says these bolts will do less damage because you get to rapid fire them instead of fire 1 at a time. So it's got a downside, but you can upgrade it and you can try it and you might like it. In Dark Souls 2, there were actually special builds into dual wielding that, because you could get more than 1 Avalon if you play the game again, or if somebody dropped you one, or whatever the case was. And there were builds where you could put on some elemental bolt and shoot people with it, and you'd actually pretty much win a lot of fights. Now, those builds have kind of been nerfed because they made Avalon do a little less damage and reload longer in Dark Souls 2, but overall it's still a very viable build. And in Dark Souls 3, Avalon isn't as good, but it's still, I think it's better than the one in this game. So anyway, it's a pretty cool weapon. I'm not gonna say it absolutely sucks or anything. It's just different, and I never really liked it because I didn't like crossbows in this game, really. I just didn't really like crossbows in any of the games, but if you are using a crossbow, go ahead, use it. It could be really handy for you. So next on the agenda is we're gonna go this way. Rather than free Logan, we just picked up a key, which was the Archive Tower Big Cell key. That's how you free Logan. Rather than doing that right away, I'm gonna venture out here and try and get a couple items. Now, if you want, and you're completely uninterested in Logan, say you're a cleric or you're a pyromancer, and none of this whole sorcery, freeing Logan, any of that interests you, you can go ahead and just come out here into this courtyard area, and you can just do what I'm doing, grab the items, and then there's a big cave over the other way, across from where we are now, and it's called Crystal Cave. And you can go in there, and you can eventually find your way through it, I'm sure. It's not super difficult, just I'm gonna make a note that there are invisible paths, and you have to take invisible paths to get to a boss, or to get to the boss, Seath. So you have to take those paths to get to him, and they're not super obvious or anything. There might be some messages if you're online, which will give it away. By themselves, if you're offline, there shouldn't be any messages, which means you might not know how they go. And so I will do that after I rescue Logan and talk with him, because he will tell you how to defeat Seath. But if you don't want to do any of that, you can head in there and you can try and get to Seath and then try and battle him and beat him. It's pretty obvious what you have to do when you get in there, but I'm going to let the game tell you how to defeat the boss rather than just running in there and telling you myself. So you can totally run into Crystal Cave over here and just go ahead if none of this interests you. You can pretty much skip to the end of this video. You just go over by those two crystal golems on the bottom right now. There's a path in there. You walk across giant crystals and you basically leave that way. But I really came out here for the crystalline armor that we just picked up. That was the dude that had the crystal greatsword that I said you could roleplay as. Well, we just picked up his armor. So now you have his armor. You can talk to Dom Holland, buy the weapons and the shield, and you should be pretty much good to go. And you can roleplay as him if you want. You can upgrade all of the gear and then go ahead and try PvP or something if you want. And so now I'm back at the bonfire, which went dark. And I see my homeward bone is dark, but it's too late. I've been invaded. So what I decide to do here is, I don't know where the invader is. I don't see him right now. But I decide to go ahead and just stand here. I watch him destroy all the items. I make it look like I'm not around. So he's waving to me. I'm not moving. You can move your camera. There will be no detection at all. Your guy won't move his head or anything. So this dude thinks I'm AFK. That I'm just not here right now. And I ran off to do something. Either that or I'm just staring at him and not moving. But he's over here doing whatever. And see, he's gesturing at me like, hey, come on, let's battle. I'm still not moving. So he's really not sure what's going on. He's just going to buff his weapon and slowly approach. And I'm not going to move. He's going to make some sudden movements. And then I'm going to attack him over here. He does backstab me, which I really didn't think he could do because I was in mid-roll, but I never got into Dark Souls 1 PvP. I got into 2 and 3, and so I'm not very good in 1, but that's why I used that little trick to get the advantage. I noticed this guy just trying to block most of my attacks. And so even though spamming attacks really isn't the best thing, I noticed that he's not the best PvP person. And in my opinion, he probably should have gotten that parry, but he didn't. I got lucky. So I managed to leave without dying. And I got some humanity from him, and I got 11,000 souls, which is pretty cool. Because that's a lot more than you're going to get from any enemy that you fight in this game, other than a boss. So I'm happy for my 11,000 soul boost. And now what I'm going to do is get to Logan in the prison area. I'm going to speed this up to show you how to get there quicker than how we got out of there. But I'm not going to commentate or anything until we get there. Alright, so back at the prison area, we just gotta get back down to the Picasa and to Logan. I'll run around and grab the items a little bit. I might speed up the video just a little more. Not as fast as what I just did, but speed it up to maybe ×2 speed or whatever to get the items. But just deal with the snake men like you would normally do. Just try not to rest at this bonfire, because I said earlier that once you get here, you haven't rested at this bonfire, which means that leaving is a lot easier. You just get whatever you need to get from here, and then use a homeward bone to go back to the bonfire where I fought the invader at. So, I wouldn't rest at this bonfire unless you feel like running back and dealing with enemies. So we just gotta go down this really long staircase. So with an upgraded Pyromancy Flame, I'm able to one-shot these things. Or at least with Fire Orb. I could choose a stronger Pyromancy too. But you can see with my 10 humanity, I'm already picking up a couple humanity just from running through here, which was kind of the point. The whole reason why I decided to keep it, because I really didn't want to have to farm for more, because I used a lot. I used, well, 10 to get to my 10 humanity. Well, I actually used 9, and I wanted to keep it, and so my humanity reserves were just a little low. So it's kind of nice to get a couple here.
I'm saved. That makes twice. I must be sure to repay you. I will visit the archives. If I discover any new spells, I shall share them with you. Prepare to be impressed by the onward march of sorcery. Hello. I'll head out soon. I wish to lay down my plans before...
So Logan is weird. He's just gonna sit in this cell that I just opened until he's ready to go through the archives. But most importantly, we pick up a Firekeeper soul back here, and that is one of a few things that we're going to get in here. Now this area is big. Like I said, I'm going to speed up the video a little bit. There we go. So now we're going to explore the archives. We want to get into one of these cells that has the key. It should be this one. You grab your extra key, and then I would close the cell once you're done, because if you do have to rest here or you die or whatever and you come back here, you're not going to want to have to deal with crystal hollows that are leaving the cells that you left open. And, you know, try to attack them, try to get the gain on them from the other side of the cell before you open it, just in case. But there's really nothing back there. We go up this way towards the bonfire. Again, here's another room. And we pick up a soul. And we continue going up here. Yet another room. One of these rooms is nothing but hollows. Nothing interesting. I guess this room's empty. Again, close it. Here's your bonfire. And in the back side of your bonfire room, you're going to want to fight, because then you can fight these hollows here. And you'll be able to get to this other door that I mentioned earlier. So in here, we're going to want to drop down from here. And we'll get a soul. And there's really nowhere else to drop down to. So we got to go this way. And you're going to drop back down to where the snake people are. Which is kind of annoying because they're not dead. I didn't kill them right now. So I got to wait for them to do something. basically get out of my way. This time they're climbing ladders and sliding down ladders and just kind of being a pain. So wait, maybe do a plunging attack or whatever. Try to get out of here. Use whatever surroundings you can to your advantage. Go ahead and take care of one dude and then see if I can get over here and backstab that one. Really, a lot of this game, as you've seen me do, is just going to be backstabbing, especially in this area, where the enemies are super health and super armored, but, you know, basic attacks, just kind of annoying enemies that you can backstab, because you might do, like, 4 or 5 hits to kill them instead of, like, 1 or 2 like you're normally used to. And then you could backstab them for 1 shot anyway. So, might as well backstab them. It's quicker, it's safer, you get some invincibility frames when you do backstabs and stuff. So, it's pretty much the way to go. And last thing we're gonna get, we gotta fall down from here. And in this cell, you're gonna get the maiden stuff and the white seance ring, which, again, should give you extra attunement slots. It's just like the Dark Moon Covenant ring, not the Covenant ring, but the other ring that we picked up in the catacombs. Seance ring. That's the one I was thinking of. So now we're back at Firelink Shrine, and from here I'm going to warp to Undead Parish. I could have warped from the archive straight over to the Undead Parish area with Andre, but I really, first of all, I really wasn't thinking that. I just wanted to get out of the archive before I got invaded, and second of all, if I warp back with a homeward bone now, I'll go back to Firelink Shrine, which will save a loading screen, kind of. But even though I had to make a loading screen to get here again, I don't know. In my mind, it seemed a little cleaner. So, now the reason why I'm back here is because I'm going to rejoin the Forest Hunters, because I have absolved my sin, so now they'll accept me. Just gotta talk to Alvina, and I'm gonna grab the soul that I missed in the garden area, and then we're gonna take a side trip over to Blighttown, because I've maxed out my Pyromancy flame, so now I can talk to the Tier 2 Master Pyromancer, and learn some new and stronger Pyromancies, and I can talk to Siegmeyer, who's down there. He needs some purple moss, and then I can also talk to Shiva, who is part of the Forest Hunter clan. He will sell some unique weapons. He sells, like, the Demon's Great Axe and the Demon's Great Machete, and a couple unique items. So, I'm over here, I'm gonna run past everybody, and I'll talk to Alvina. Because once you talk to her, everybody pretty much stops attacking you. They'll come right at you, then you talk to her and they'll go away. So she'll say, will you join us? You say, yes, let's make a covenant. So you join her, that's going to abandon whoever you're with. I was with Blades of Dark Moon, so now I'm no longer part of that group, and I can't use anything they give me, which I really wasn't using anything before. I just joined to show you the kind of good invasion covenant. And so now, at this time, I'm part of the Forest Hunters. I don't think you can get invaded by Forest Hunters if you're a Forest Hunter yourself. But you can get normal invaded, so I shouldn't have to worry too much about invasions right now. I'm just going to keep the homeward bones to check. Now, if you're interested in getting gold pine resin, what you do is you farm these mushroom children and mushroom parents. Mushroom parents, the big ones, are guaranteed to drop gold pine resin, and the children here have a rarer chance of dropping it. So that's all I do here. I need a couple extra anyway, because I've used a couple since I last farmed. So I'm going to speed this up. So basically, you can just see me attacking here. Now, the trick with the mushroom parents, especially, is don't underestimate them. I've seen a lot of people run up here, think that they can one-shot them, or two-shot them, or backstab them, or whatever the case is. They're overconfident. And the mushroom parents are actually deceivingly strong. I've seen them one-shot players before. They run up, they attack them, they get punched, and the player dies. So I sped this up super fast because I wanted to show you where the item is. So now, if you remember, we came up by where the Hydra is. There's a giant ladder you climbed up. We went across a bridge. If you look over here, you can see these big cat things that I killed one or whatever in a previous video for Darkroot Garden. And that's all I dealt with. I didn't go ahead and kill the other ones because it was taking too long, and the video was taking a long time. But you get a large soul of a brave warrior. And again, to put this in perspective at a slower pace, where this is at in regards to everything else, if you look all the way over here to your right, there's more mushroom children. If you look over here to your right, you'll be able to see the giant door that leads to the grave of Artorias. Over here, where we fought Seath. There's the bridge. So what you would do is you would get to this spot and then run right over there towards the cats. And then you'd find your item. So now I have 45,000 souls, which is a lot of souls. And the next thing I'm going to do is go down to Blighttown. Now, I choose to go about it kind of a weird, longer way. Doesn't really matter, but if you rested at the bonfire with the other spider chick, Quaelag's sister, it's called the Daughter of Chaos Bonfire. If you rested there, you can fast travel there. I wasn't thinking about that, so I took the elevator down into New Londo and then went down into Blighttown that way, backwards. So it takes me a little longer. Again, I'm going to cut the video till I get to the bottom of the circle elevator lift in Blighttown. And so we're down here. First thing you'll notice is Shiva. He's over here, again, by the lift that would take you out of Blighttown, the one that kind of spins around. He's down here, kind of blends in, so look for him carefully.
Strange to meet away from the clan and the forest. But while you are here, how about some equipment?
And he sells some unique stuff that you really can't get anywhere else.
So many. And you know, you are a friend.
So you can buy the Flamberge, you can buy the Demon Great Machete, or the Stone Greatsword, or the Chattel. If you didn't pick those up in the areas or whatever, or from the enemies that I killed, and I happened to pick them up, you can get them from him. You can buy the Claws, which isn't something that's dropped, you have to buy. You can buy the Washing Pole, which is a super long katana. It's got lower durability, but the reach is incredible. It's used in PvP all the time. You can buy the Uchi Katana, which is different than Aedo, and the way you would get that is you would kill the male undead merchant. And I believe in like the first or second video when I visited him, I mentioned something about killing him to get the katana, because it is a pretty decent katana. A lot of people, they go, oh, I don't really have a use for this guy, and they kill him. And then they get his katana, and they have a really, really good weapon early game, and then they upgrade that, and you can basically keep that weapon for the entire game. With the bleeding, and if you level up dexterity right, and maybe you buff it or something, it's a very good weapon, just like Aedo, just like pretty much any other katana. They're all really good. But I said not to because he's over there, and you can buy a lot of good beginning stuff like throwing knives and arrows, and I didn't know what character you were going to build or if you would need to visit him for really anything, so I advised not killing him. Now if we run this way towards Quaelag's domain, that weird white moundy thing, and actually you gotta go over to this pillar, but you're gonna see a new person. Her name's Quaelana, and she shows up if your Pyromancy Flame is at least +10, or if somebody has summoned into your world or invaded into your world with a +10 Pyromancy Flame. And so she sells more advanced pyromancies and can ascend your Pyromancy Flame into even higher.
Undead. yet you can see me. Fascinating. I am Quelana of Izalith. I am not often revealed to walkers of flesh. You have a gift. Are you too one who seeks my pyromancy, like Salomon? Yes, of course. It should be expected. Very well. You shall be my pupil, but to pursue my pyromancy, you must give something up. Are you prepared to do this? Long ago, I accepted another pupil like yourself. Over 200 years ago, there was a man almost as bungling as you. In your world, he was called Salomon, the Master Pyromancer. The little rascal really made something of himself. Pyromancy is the art of invoking and manipulating fire. But remember one thing. Always fear the flame, lest you be devoured by it and lose yourself. I would hate to see that happen again. Pyromancy is the...
So she's pretty interesting. She sells all this higher level pyromancy. Again, higher level stuff, higher level miracles, higher level spells. All of that is really expensive. And so, it's gonna cost you a lot of souls. At this point in the game, I'm gonna buy all her stuff, which is thousands and thousands of souls. So, it's gonna take some time. So while I'm doing all of that, I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit about her. So, she can ascend your pyromancy flame to from plus 15 to an ascended pyromancy flame, and that can get up to plus 5. And so ultimately, it basically makes your pyromancy flame plus 20, which makes it a lot stronger than anything else. For no stat investment. You don't need any real intelligence, you don't need any real faith to use this thing. It costs a lot of souls to do it, but in the end, you get to throw some fireballs around at super high damage. So it's kind of worth it. And so, her story is pretty interesting. So, we've noticed there's Quelaag, Chaos Witch Quelaag, and if you read her soul or her boss weapons, which I'll probably get into boss weapons next video, but if you look into that stuff, it tells you she was a daughter of Chaos from the Witch of Izalith, and the witch had a lot of different daughters, had like 6 or 7 or something. The opening cutscene there shows them all being there. And so what's interesting is that Quelana is one of those witches. What happened to the others is a long story, but basically Quelaag is one of them. There's one that's dead. There's the fair lady that's kind of sick or whatever. They had a brother that we'll have to fight later. And then one goes hollow near the boss of Lost Izalith. And then there's Quelana, which accounts for most of them. And so they're all in the same group as the Witch of Izalith. And so this one decided to really kind of create pyromancy what it is today, and she took on a student, this Salomon guy, who is apparently really well known throughout your universe. So you're talking to his source for all of pyromancy. And the Witch of Izalith didn't create pyromancy, but she used fire and all this, and her daughters used fire enough to the point that Quelana was able to create pyromancy. So it's interesting. You're basically learning all of the important stuff from the source, which there's only a few other pyromancies that we can actually get, and they're either obscure, like there's a toxic mist and there's an acid surge, or there's one that's like you have to join a covenant and rank up in it. And actually, you have to join the Daughters of Chaos and rank up with that to get it, I should say. Not just a covenant. So you have to rank up with that, and she needs 30 humanity. You have to give the fair lady 30 humanity to get Great Chaos Fire Orb, which is really powerful and leaves a little lava puddle where it lands. So, it's pretty cool. We've now got most of the pyromancy. So if you're a pyromancer, if you're into this whole fire magic thing, if you've kind of been following along my character here, and you're into that, you've now pretty much got everything you need to be an effective pyromancer, if you've bought all the stuff. And so you can test those out and try them, you know, just kind of experiment. So now we gotta head over. So we've talked to Shiva, we've talked to Quaylana. Now we've got to head over and talk to Siegmeyer, who is down here. And he's stuck. He needs poison moss. He's embarrassed to ask it when we first meet him, but eventually he asks. And he's asleep again, because why not?
Oh ho! Excuse me, I was so absorbed in thought I just drifted away. You see, I'm actually in a bit of a fix. I've made it this far, but I'm short on antidote moss for the trip back. By my knighthood, I'm ashamed to ask, but can you spare a few scraps of moss? Fantastic! Thank you. A saint you are. This Knight of Katarina expresses his grief. Well, our fates do seem entwined, don't they? Perhaps this, too, is the will of Lord Gwyn. The poison swamp, like quicksand in there.
Well, it's pretty cool. You get to help him out again. And he keeps saying that he'll pay you back. You're coming up on the end of his quest line. There are 2 endings to it. And we're going to go back to Duke's Archives, where we'll actually meet somebody who shares pretty much the same quest as him. So, you're coming up to a part where his quest line is going to end, and there's going to be multiple ways of ending it. His quest line doesn't end until Lost Izalith or another area, so we've still got some time to whenever we get there. But for now, we're going to continue with Big Hat Logan, because he is now freed. He said he's going to move back to the archives, and he ends up in this little room over here. And we can talk to him, and he tells us some interesting stuff.
I was expecting you. This place is truly magnificent, more than expected even. As promised, I shall share the new sorceries with you, and the secret of Seath's immortality. The secret of Seath's immortality. If you have fought him and were imprisoned, you must know that Seath is a true undead, different from ourselves. His wounds close promptly, and no mortal blow affects him, granting true insulation from death. His wounds close promptly.
I don't know why it repeats here, but it does. It's kind of funny.
True insulation from death. It is an effect of the primordial crystal, a sacred treasure pillaged by Seath when he turned upon the ancient dragons. So only by destroying the primordial crystal can you so much as scratch his hide. And it so happens, the primordial crystal is in the inner garden of these very archives, the Crystal Forest. The tomes stored in these archives, a great pool of knowledge, the fruits of superior wisdom and an unquenchable desire for the truth. Some would say Seath had an unsound fixation. But his work is a beautiful, invaluable resource. All progress demands sacrifice, and I certainly bear no antipathy for that wonderful escape. The tomes stop.
So there, Logan tells you the secret to Seath. He says that Seath is immortal because of a crystal. He doesn't have any scales, so the other dragons were able to live forever because of their scales, and Seath doesn't have it, so when he allied with Lord Gwyn, he found the primordial crystal, and over time has found the power to unlock it and make himself immortal from the crystal's power. And so basically what that means is when we go to fight him, we gotta look for a giant crystal, which Logan said it's in the Crystal Forest, which it's actually in a cave in the Crystal Forest. This is technically the Crystal Forest. It doesn't change, like the name doesn't change from Duke's Archives to Crystal Forest because Crystal Cave is up ahead. And so we're going to go into here, and this is ultimately where your battle with Seath will take place, and this is where you defeat him. So inside Crystal Cave, you don't want to go too far down. I almost did. You could run past this crystal golem and the others. And you can get down here. And you can see these crystals kind of look like snowflakes. They're falling down and they're hitting something solid. And these are the invisible paths I was talking about earlier. They're kind of tricky. It's a little difficult to see some of these paths because these crystal things don't really stay very long. There is a message here which is helping me a little bit. For this path and another path that connects to another giant crystal dead ahead, they're pretty much straight paths. Once you get on it, you just keep kind of going the same direction, you should be fine. For this other path that I'm about to go on to, it winds, it curves, it's a pain. I don't actually know it, so it actually took me quite a while to get through it, and I died. I had went hollow and stuff, so... What's important, though, is that there are 3 crystal lizards, of course, in Crystal Cave, and they're down in this little tunnel that I'm at, so I got 2 of them, and I'll manage to get the 3rd in one of my runs trying to get the item across this twisted path. So for the time being, I'll keep the video the same till I kill this crystal golem. He is a golden golem, but he doesn't have anybody in him like we had with Dusk. He's just a golden golem. He's stronger, I guess maybe because there's other crystals around him. The crystal cave is maybe a source of power and he's stronger, whatever the case is. Now, this path here, you can see a sign, a message here from other players. And this is the difficult path. You can see there's an item over there, and that item is a blue Titanite slab. And Titanite slabs, in general, the normal ones are rare. The elemental ones, there's only 1 in this game of each kind, except for the divine one. There's an extra Titanite slab in the DLC. I don't know why they choose divine and none of the others, but they did. So if you are a magic user and you're using magic infused weapons like enchanted weapon or a magic weapon and you want to get the magic weapon to +10, then you've got to have a blue Titanite slab. And you can farm for them from some enemy. I don't remember which. Maybe it's the crystal golems. But it's super rare, and you're going to want to get this one if that's what you're into. Now you can see I'm following these crystals as best as I can see. It looks like that I'm pretty safe, except for that one that fell straight off. So I'm like, hey look, these crystals are hitting a spot. I'm going to walk straight ahead. And I fell. I was wearing the ring, so I didn't lose anything this time. But you can see the path kind of twists and turns a little bit. So now I'm going to put on the Chloranthy ring. And one thing I missed, and I was thinking about it before I warped here, and I don't know why I didn't do it on my way to Crystal Cave. But one thing I missed is that there's a golden crystal golem in this crystal forest area that I completely avoided. It's right over there. It's the whole reason of going and talking to Siegmeyer, is for this thing to show up. So that's why I went down to Blighttown, not only to continue on the other stuff, to get the Pyromancy and to talk to Shiva and get the rare stuff. That's cool, but since I'm doing Crystal Cave and the Duke's Archives, I might as well not leave any loose ends for like story and stuff. Might as well try and get the quest lines moving along so I don't have to come back to this spot. Now, I will in the next video have to come back to get another ember. There's a large magic ember that allows you to take your weapons that are magic to +10. You can't do that from the magic blacksmith in New Londo. You have to give this magic ember to him. So, I will get that later. I'm going to farm for a bunch of souls after this video, and then go get the Magic Ember. That way you can see the end of Logan's questline. But for now, we're going to talk to not Siegmeyer.
You rescued me. Why, thank you. I am Sieglind of Katarina. I don't know how I ended up in that crystal. It wasn't terrible in there, but I could hardly move. I must think of some way to repay you. Oh, have you seen my father? You wouldn't miss him. A suit of armor just like mine. Thank goodness. I knew he was here somewhere. Well then, now I must find him. Thanks again, truly. Now if we'll just stay put.
So this is Sieglind of Katarina. It's Siegmeyer's daughter. She's not undead. She's not hollow. She's actually human. And that's what's a little weird, a little confusing about this game, is that you can restore your humanity as an undead, but ultimately when you die, you're going to come back. What makes you undead is because you're afflicted with the undead curse, meaning you die, you come back to life. She doesn't have the curse, or if she does, she hasn't activated it. So she's not undead yet, or can't be undead, or whatever. I'm not too clear on that, but my interpretation is maybe she has the mark, the dark sign, meaning if she dies, she comes back to life. But maybe she hasn't died yet. Whereas, say, your character has died, or her father has died, but he had the curse, so he came back as undead. Maybe it just means that she doesn't have the curse at all. Not yet, because it's still spreading from people, so she might not have it at all. So at this point, I missed this whole crystal cave windy area a few times, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it to when I get the item and I get safely back. So here you can see your blue Titanite slab. It's down here. It tells you it allows you to take magic weapons up to +10 and enchanted weapons up to +5. And like I said, it's the only one of its kind in the game. Even in the DLC, at least to my knowledge, I think there's only one of each, except for the divine one, the white Titanite chunks and white slab. I think there's 2 white slabs because of the DLC. Anyway, it's really important. If you're doing a magic character, you're probably going to want to have that because your weapons are going to scale with magic, and that's going to allow you to take your magic weapon up to maximum. Now, you could have your magic weapon or enchanted weapon up to the one before maximum and be happy with that if you're finding that path to be really frustrating, like I do. But in an effort to show you that that's over there and that it's pretty important, I went ahead and got it. There's also red Titanite slabs, which I'm going to get that when we go to Lost Izalith. And like I said, there's white Titanite slabs, which I'll go ahead and get that when we get into Tomb of the Giants. So we're almost there. We've just got to kill these weird clam things, because they're in the way between us and the boss area. There's no boss fog yet. The first time you fight Seath, there's no boss fog, but it shows up when he shows up and the boss fight actually starts. After that, if you die or warp out or something, the boss fog will be there every time you approach it. It's also kind of important to note, I didn't mention it, should have mentioned it at the beginning of Crystal Cave, that the moonlight butterflies that you're seeing around here are called the crystal butterflies, just because they're in Crystal Cave. There's really no difference. They're pretty much exactly the same as the moonlight butterfly, except for that they don't land. So if you upset them, you get too close or whatever, and they start attacking you, they're just going to hover there and attack you. So it's an all-ranged fight, and it's kind of a pain because they're entirely magic-based, which means that only things like arrows can really do damage. If you're using sorcery, you're probably not going to do that much damage to them unless you've got some really powerful sorcery and are like really leveled up with it, you'll be able to kill them that way. But for the most part, you're just going to want to avoid them because they don't really do anything for you anyway. Maybe a couple thousand souls, I think. It's really not that important that you go ahead and battle them, so avoid them. And these clam things have a chance of dropping purging stones just in case you do get cursed from Seath. If you have a rare ring of sacrifice, throw it on. If you don't, then throw on the curse bite ring or something with high curse. That's what I'm checking. Ornstein's armor has pretty high curse resistance. You can see my bar, now that I'm wearing the curse bite ring, is super high. The only reason why it's purple is because it's draining my new curse bite ring resistance bar down to nothing. Alright, Seath the Scaleless. Now, as intimidating as a magic, pale dragon, like ancient dragon sounds and how huge he is, he's actually not that difficult. It's kind of surprising. He does have 3 tails, and you have to cut off the back tail if you want the tail item drop that he does. One trick to that is to baiting a breath attack where he knocks over the primordial crystal that I was standing next to, and that will allow you to damage him. You can also just hit the primordial crystal yourself and then run back here, but the strategy is if he does a breath attack, it gives you extra time to get behind him, because the item you get from cutting off his tail is the Moonlight Greatsword, which is a greatsword that does entirely magic damage. Really good for your magic sorcery builds. The only problem is if you don't do the primordial crystal thing and get him to damage it, and you don't cut off his tail in that time, getting to his back tail is going to be kind of a pain. That's what most of this fight is, actually. For me anyway, is running around and trying to get to his tail. The other 2 tails on the sides don't do anything. They're just there to kind of stop you from getting behind him. And he does do tail attacks, and they can sweep and attack you. But really, the struggle is if you're trying to cut off his tail to get behind him. The other tails, they really don't do anything. I'm not even sure if you can cut those off. I don't think you can. And when I say cut off, I really mean the very tip of the tail. You'll see when we get to the back of his big tail here. You'll see that when I cut it off, I don't cut off the whole tail. It's like half of its body. I cut off a very small part. But you can see just getting there is kind of a problem. Now, if you can get him to do a magic attack, like the area of effect Crystal Blast, boom, you can cut off his tail like that. Now you don't have to worry about it. It's just going to sit there in the room, and you can proceed with the fight. And honestly, this fight is pretty easy. You just run up and you hit him, and watch out for the magic blasts like that. It's initially going to do some decent damage. You can see my health draining. But you should really mostly be worried about the curse, because it doesn't stagger you, so you can still drink a flask while you're taking damage. And then it's really watching that curse bar. And he doesn't have much health himself this way. He takes so long to fire his laser beams. He doesn't grab you. He doesn't really do anything in terms of actual physical attacks. So you can just kind of hit him, and boom, Seath the Scaleless is dead. He's probably the easiest one to kill. The first time I ever played Dark Souls and beat it, I got to Seath the Scaleless. I did him first. Because I asked a friend, I'm like, hey, you've played and beaten this game. You know, which one should I go after first? And he said, oh, probably Seath the Scaleless. And then I ran in here thinking it was going to be some mega awesome fight. And I think I died maybe twice. And then the other times, I've just dropped him in the first attempt. So, he's really not that difficult once you figure out that it's the curse that you need to worry about. And the closer you are to him, like right up next to him, the damage he really doesn't do with his breath attacks. He tends to miss, or if he does hit you, it's not to the point where you get sent flying.
I'm sorry he's caused you trouble. You have a knack for that. Really?
And so, we go back to Firelink. We talk to Sieglind again. You tell her that you have seen her father again, and she'll try to head off and find him. If you say you haven't seen him both times, I think the quest kind of stops with her. She doesn't go anywhere, she doesn't pursue anything. I think she just disappears, gives up hope or something. Siegmeyer, you should still be able to do his quest all the way. So, but with her, just keep saying you've seen him. And as long as you keep doing that, you'll be able to talk with her and continue her thing. She really doesn't do anything for you until the very end of Siegmeyer's quest, where she does meet up with him if things go right, if you save him. So I decided to level up Attunement, that way I could have more than one spell equipped. So I have Combustion and Fire Orb equipped now. And I also leveled up my health once, so I have that 1100 health that I've been looking for. I don't know why 1100. It's just kind of been sticking out in my mind as probably a good spot to be at. And so now we're going to be at the end of this video. We can talk to the Pyromancer guy.
Oh, hello there. You've been a stranger these days.
Why? What spectacular pyromancy?
Tell me about it. I have never seen anything like it.
So he talks about your new Pyromancy. If you tell him no, he'll stay. He won't go anywhere, he'll just stay right here. If you say yes, he goes hollow in the swamp, and you gotta go kill him.
Thank you for sharing. I'm still an able pyromancer. I shall locate him myself. Owning your deck once again.
So I told him yes.
Goodbye.
I said,
Be safe.
hey, look, I got
And
this
you dare go
Pyromancy
on.
from Quailana. She's down in the swamp. And he said, oh, that makes sense. And so he's gonna go down there, and ultimately he fails and goes hollow. It's kind of sad, but you can either keep him here and he'll do nothing, or you send him away and you end up beating him. So now the video is pretty much over. I'm thinking next time I'm going to do some more miscellaneous things. I'm going to probably explore the Painted World and do maybe the Great Hollow area that I discovered in Blighttown, and maybe do some boss weapons and stuff before I go ahead and do the other two lords. So next video is probably going to be more random stuff, more side area stuff, and then after that we'll continue on with the main game. Then after we defeat those two lords, we'll do the DLC and then beat the game. So that's the future plan. Thanks for watching. I hope it was helpful.